We're on in three, two, one. Uh, Michael, thank you so much. Welcome to my humble little podcast YouTube channel. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining me for a conversation. Um, we actually met in an IANS sharing group, and now you haven't had a near-death experience yourself, right?
I have not. I have had some spiritually transformative experiences,
Uh-huh.
but I have done a lot of research into NDEs.
Yeah, same here. I haven't had a near-death experience myself. Two of my close friends have those, and they share their stories with me. And plus, I've been just absorbing it, learning it everywhere I can. So yeah, that's the cool thing about those sharing groups. You don't have to have an experience to be there if you're curious and you just want to learn and support people and stuff. But I remember, um, like one of the times you shared something yourself. It was like related to the topic we were all talking about, and this is kind of like your thing. Like even your name at the bottom of the screen here, it says superhero. um I love that. Like I love superheroes. Like I'm a writer. I've been writing superhero stories for years. And your thing, your message to the world is we can all be a superhero in real life, and we can have real superpowers. So like, help me out here. Do I need to be bitten by a radioactive bug? Do I have to come from another planet? How does this work? How do I become a superhero?
Thanks so much for asking, and thanks so much for having me on here. It's so awesome to. I think I'm your first guest, so I'm
Yes, you're the
very
yes,
uh,
first person I'm recording this with. Very excited.
yeah.
Thank you for popping my cherry
I feel like
for podcasting here. Yeah,
I get to lead the way a little bit, like pave new ground or something.
you're
Um,
setting the bar. Everyone's got to meet this or better now.
well, I'm sure everybody will be incredible. And yeah, so the biggest message that I try to get out to people is that everybody has the power to be a superhero, and that we all have our own real life superpowers. We all have something that we're good at, and that other people might not be quite as good at. And my
So
favorite,
you mean like a talent or gift or like a skill set? Like what do you mean?
yeah, absolutely, and any of the above. We all have things that that come naturally to us that other people might struggle with. Um, so there's that, and we can use that to help the world. And also, my definition of a superhero is that a hero is somebody that helps people, and that a superhero is somebody that helps a lot of people. And one of the best
Works.
things that I try to get out there is that it doesn't actually have to be work. To like, you don't have to go donate like $1 million, or do something crazy. Um, it's more of a change of mindset. Um, I I told this story at my TEDx talk, but it just still boggles my mind. I was walking into the grocery store one time, and I saw an older lady putting her groceries in the back of her car. And I said to her, I was like, "Hey, I'd be glad to take your grocery cart back if you'd like me to." And she just started like losing her mind and just praising me, like thanking me, just going crazy. And in my mind, I was just going into the grocery store anyway, so
It's like no big deal, right? Yeah.
it's no extra work for me. If anything, it's more fun because I can ride on the back of the cart and go flying down to the parking lot, and then into the store. And
But clearly it was a big deal for her though, right? It meant a lot to her.
and meant a lot to her. And so it was just seeing that there's an opportunity to help, and there's something that I could do. And my biggest way of being a superhero, or I should say my favorite way of being a superhero, is just saying hi to people. If you think about it, there's so much that's going on psychologically if you just say hi to somebody. So I try to say hi to as many people as I can. And I say, like, have a great every day. If there's enough time for me to say have a great every day, that's what I say. If I'm driving by somebody quickly, and I just say have a great day. And because like even when I'm leaving the grocery store, like I yell out the window to everybody I see, like, to have a great day. And it's really neat because there's so many times that I've seen somebody that I see them walking, and it looks like they're maybe a little bit down on themselves, or in their own mind, and not so happy. And I said to them, hope you have a great every day. And they're like, they come alive. And I can't I can't tell you how many
It's
people.
connection. It's showing that you care, right?
Absolutely. And I really do. And I say that because like I really do mean it. Because not only like I love seeing people thrive, and I love seeing people do well. And and also, if all of us are having a great every day, then it lifts up everybody else, you know, or even like one
Right.
person, if they're having a great day, or you know, their day gets elevated when they go home to their family, they're brightening up their day, and then their family is going out and brightening other people's days, and it just keeps rippling out to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of a saying. It goes something like a rising tide raises all ships.
Hmm,
So yeah, what you're saying is you're making one person feel better, like it's lifting their mood, their energy, their spirits. So everyone around them that is interacting with it, like it's also going to raise them too, just because we do influence each other all the time. Sometimes in like obvious direct ways, but also just the energy a person is around you, right? Like especially someone you live with, right? If your partner or roommate or whatever is in a really bad mood and having a bad day, you're walking on eggshells around them, like you're not comfortable, you're not relaxed. But if they're like happy and light and easygoing and feeling good, you feel better, right?
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
you actually so you're a teacher is your day job, right?
So I left teaching, and so
Okay, so you were a teacher.
yep, and I was a teacher, I was a coach, I was a before and after school site director. I worked in after
You're
school. I was a babysitter. I was also a game designer, and both my games did very well. The second one was for kids and adults, and it's all about creating. And that one um, made it into hundreds of schools all around the world, which is really cool. I'm an author.
awesome.
I'm a TEDx speaker, and the main thing that I do now that is my main focus and that I love the most of everything is I teach kids and adults how to play frisbee at a local park that has an outdoor cafe next to it, and so people come from the outdoor cafe and they come play frisbee, and I
That's
love that so much
amazing.
because that
Yeah.
is such a wonderful opportunity to get that ripple effect going.
And I love that too because it gets people out of the house. You're doing physical activity in a fun game. So just being outside, being in the sun, physically moving around, that's going to boost you know, your mood anyway. And then you're playing with other people. It's a team sport. So you're creating that connection and that's that opportunity to be a positive influence and things like that. Um, so yeah, sorry for not properly introducing you before. So yeah, you're an author, you're a speaker, you've done TEDx talks, and you have a lot of experience working with kids as a teacher, and you've kind of took what you learned about using this superpower to make someone's day to help their life. And it's like this works with kids. It also works with adults, and now that's kind of your message. That's why you're here on this episode recording this. So you were talking about our powers. You kind of were really saying there's two things. There's like our gifts, talents, experience, skills, like something unique to us that we have that it's easier for us. We're naturally better at it, learn it quicker than the average person. And we can use that to make the world a better place somehow. But then you also said, like, you don't even need to do that. Like, you can literally just help an old lady in the parking lot. You can just smile and say hi to somebody and genuinely wish them a good day. You don't have to do a big thing. You don't have to literally be Superman flying around and saving the world. Because I think a lot of us, I know myself, used to like think and feel that like, oh, I got to build a big business that's an international corporation and affects millions of customers and it makes all this big impact on the world. And I've got to save the environment and clean up the oceans and do all this big stuff. And if someone's called to do that, that's their passion, that's their heart. Great. Like we need people to do that too at that level. But we all can just do the simple, just the people we meet day to day, the people we live with, the people we come across out in public, the people we work with. And those relationships, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if you agree with me or not, you actually have the biggest impact because it's personal. It's not just, oh, I made a movie that's inspiring and has a positive message and people will get something out of it. And that's very different than saying, you personally, I believe in you. You've got what it takes. I know you. this is not a general message. This is for you specifically, kind of thing. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm very thankful that you asked this question because this is something that I've been going back and forth in my head a little bit. But also, it's so interesting how frequently in life reviews you see where it wasn't, somebody donating $1 million or doing this big grandiose thing that source or people in the afterlife cared about the most. It was the small acts of kindness, like helping somebody be able to pay for their groceries online, even if it was like giving them $1. I mean, I think there was a lady that was talking about her life review, and it was 73 cents that a single mom was short, and she got to see how just that generosity made it so that lady started volunteering in a soup kitchen. And then when that lady was volunteering in a soup kitchen, there was another lady that she was helping. And that lady was, in rough shape and, so sorry that she didn't have enough. And that lady was able to say, it's okay. I know how you feel. That's how. And so it's like just so cool to see how
It
that
ripples
ripples
out.
out,
Yeah.
people to see that. Um,
So
and
for people who might not be familiar, what is the life review? When does it happen? Like, if they're not familiar with near-death experience stories, can you kind of summarize what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the life review is one of the most interesting and beautiful and just perfect concepts of near-death experiences. And also, there's these things called uh, um, yeah, what LBLs, life between lives.
Lives between life. Yeah.
Yeah, where a psychologist that's doing hypnotherapy will actually take people um, from death other in one of their past lives into the beyond, like into their death state, and and what's happening in the afterlife. And so anyway, so these life reviews are after somebody dies. They so frequently, this is, I think this has happened in a vast majority of NDEs and especially LBLs and or yeah um and basically you're seeing your entire life. You're able to see your entire life in these like movie screens or television screens or it's sometimes different for different people, but basically screens. And not only do you see your entire life, but you also see how everybody else that was a part of your life felt and how they thought and how your actions impacted them and how you made them feel. And so and also I think one really important thing, hopefully I explained it okay, but was that the only one that's really judging is you. And although I have heard some stories where like where you've done something kind and you go through the LBL, like there'll be spirits that are just celebrating. And one of my favorites that I heard was there was a guy that he was walking in a city and he had drank some water out of a water bottle and he was it was still like half full, but he was done drinking it and he saw a plant that was dying of thirst and kind of withering, and he watered that plant. And so when he had his life review,
Life review.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was a whole stadium of spirits that were like cheering and celebrating and just losing their mind because he did that act of kindness of watering a plant.
To a plant. Okay, so can we pause there? That's really interesting. So we're talking about when we're on the other side, either after we've died from this body, or maybe you went through a hypnosis regression and you're remembering, prior to being incarnated into this body, kind of thing. What was happening on the other side. We have these life reviews where we kind of rewatch everything we ever did and how that affects others. And then you're sharing a story, which sounds familiar. So I think I heard that one too somewhere. So this guy is watering a plant, and you're saying that other spirits watching from the other side, angels and your spirit support team and who knows who else are celebrating that. I mean, it's just a plant, right? What difference does it make? Like, who cares, right? It's a tree. We cut these things down to just make wood out of, to build buildings and cardboard to ship Amazon boxes, that kind of stuff. Like, um, do you feel that that story implies that all forms of life, not just people, but maybe animals and even plants, are valuable and deserve kindness, to be treated with love and respect?
Absolutely.
Which,
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about that too, like how interesting that concept in that story was with the plant. But if that plant gets that water and is healthy again, and maybe it's a rose or just something that looks beautiful or whatever, and people are going by it and they're kind of in a funk or feeling down or whatever, and they see that beautiful plant, they're like, "Whoa, that's such an incredible plant," and it brightens up their day. That's
yeah,
more ripples.
yeah, or I forget how the saying goes, but something about you plant a tree to give shade to somebody else 20 years from now. Like, you never know who you're benefiting through a simple act. But yeah, that's really interesting. I know, with myself, I have some limited spiritual sight. I can sense energy, kind of thing, and I have felt a life force, a spiritual energy, like in all things, including plants, animals, even inanimate things like rocks, the earth itself. Um, it's not quite the same energy like a human soul, but it's definitely it's alive. There's a life force that is spiritual flowing through it. So that story you shared with the life review and the effect just watering a plant is a positive thing to celebrate, kind of, I feel, strengthens that perspective. Like, there is a life flowing through everything to some degree, and that it all matters. Um, which, admittedly makes modern life tough too, because we are mining resources out of the ground. We're chopping down trees for all kinds of things. Like, it's hard to live in modern civilization without exploiting the earth and animals and plants, kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm not talking where I'm not. I don't want to guilt anybody. This is not in ethics of what you should or shouldn't do. But I'm just thinking it's interesting that this came up, as something to think about.
Yeah.
But
Well, so
sorry. Go ahead.
I'm really glad you bring that up because me and some people have been reviewing Joseph Campbell's Power of Myth, which is a wonderful series if anybody's seen it. And so a big part of that is the Native Americans, and I really loved how even though the Native Americans of course were hunting animals for food, they give praise to the animal and they give thanks, like the animals are actually above them. Like the animals are
Hmm.
like deities, and where they're thanking and worshiping the animal for them giving their meat, so they can sustain their
And they
life.
wouldn't waste any part of it. They would make
Absolutely.
clothes out of it. They would make food out of it. They would make tools out of the bones or whatever. Yeah, like, they tried to waste as little as possible.
Yeah, and I think that is so powerful and important. As they say, this is my favorite thing with recycling. The best form of recycling is reuse,
Right.
and not that I want to go off on a tangent on that, but you know, I just been finding for myself that I actually don't really need that much stuff, and that I'm actually happier having less stuff. And I've been trying to find creative ways to reuse things.
Yeah, I've become more of a minimalist over the years. It started out of necessity, where I was young. I was like, college age, in my 20s, and so poor. I was broke, and I wanted to move cross country. I couldn't afford a U-Haul, or hire a moving company or whatever. So if it didn't fit in my car, it wasn't coming with me. So I had to really downsize, and I sold what I could and gave away whatever people would take, and whatever was left I had to just throw out. but it really downsized and minimized a lot. And I discovered quite unexpectedly, quite by accident, I felt lighter after I did. Like stuff that had just been sitting in my closet, out of sight, out of mind. I wasn't even thinking about it being there. I didn't realize, like, energetically in the back of my mind was kind of just a weight, a responsibility. Like, this is stuff I have to lug with me, and it's there cluttering space, even if I'm not looking at it, kind of thing. So since then, I mean, I still have stuff, and I keep for sentimental value and extra things and whatever, but I do live a lot more simply than I used to.
Yeah, I've found that for myself too, that the things I have, I'm afraid to lose. And and it like
Yeah,
it's very subtle. It's very like I had to really
right.
dig deep to realize that, but the anxiety that I have of not having it anymore, even though a lot of the stuff I haven't used in, like
Forever,
years.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
like, yeah,
and it's like, why do I still have this? Especially if other people can benefit from it, and if I really need something, I can just buy it. Like
right.
I don't really have anything that special or really need anything that special. Like if I have my frisbees and maybe a computer, I'm and the basic necessities, of course. I'm in pretty good shape, and
Nice.
I agree. Like it feels so much lighter to not have things I have to worry
Yeah,
about protecting.
exactly. That's it. Like I wasn't expecting that until it happened to me. And then I reflected on it and I had the same conclusion. It was like some part of me subconsciously was like afraid of losing it or something. So there was like always like a little bit of like energetic attachment that I had to hold on to make sure it was safe and that I had it and whatever, even though, like you said, I haven't been using it in forever, in years. Um, yeah, it's weird how the human brain works. um, I want to circle back though to because it's such a rich story you have. When you were teaching kids and you were first teaching them about, you have value, you have superpowers, you can make a difference, you can do something, like, because you worked with kids who maybe didn't come from the best homes all the time. Like, what age group were you working with? Do you have like a really potent story you want to share from that, about that changed a kid's life or how they looked at themselves or something like that?
Sure, I've worked with actually pretty much every age range, from pre-K to college, and just teaching different things. I taught game design to the college kids. Um, Well, there is one really potent story that well, I mean, there's a lot of really potent stories, but the one that comes to mind is the one that I mentioned in my TEDx talk, and maybe it was because I had anger problems as well, so I was able to relate
Mhm.
to the child a little bit more. Um, but basically, I had a kid he was coming in after school, and he was an elementary age kid, and I think he was in around first or second grade at the time. And if somebody looked at him wrong, he'd want to fight them. He was, everything was making him angry, and so what I would do is, if he was, acting up and wanting to get violent, is, I would have him, because I never had a timeout. I never called it timeout. I called it taking a break, and I really loved that concept and calling it that, because it gave me the opportunity of when they were taking a break. First of all, it separated them from the situation, so they were able to process emotions, cool off a little bit, and it was also a chance for me to sit and talk to them and ask them, hey, what's going on? Like, what are you feeling? What are you frustrated about? What's going on? Or why did you act a particular way? And and
Right.
if they did something bad to somebody else, I could say, well, how do you think that other person felt when you did that? Like, not good. How would you feel if someone did that to you? Not good. And it helps them to realize how they made that
Build empathy.
feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really neat, just like seeing the light bulbs that turn on their heads, like when they're able to like take that step aside and and process all that, and like, take that look from, from outside the situation. So anyway, he, yeah, so I had a lot of those conversations with him, and they're really wonderful and really powerful, and we started to be able to connect a little bit. And in my after school class too, I was writing stories of, superhero stories, and I told the kids that if they wrote their own stories, that I would include them in my stories. And so he started writing so many stories, I couldn't keep up, and so I would include him in my stories, and of course he was all happy about it. And I started to write him just some short letters about how proud I was of how he was doing, and and of course, he took him home. He didn't have. I didn't really notice like any super reactions to him, and but I got invited to Thanksgiving at his place, and he showed me his room, and he had my letters taped up on his wall, and like
Wow.
it's still just absolutely boggles my mind. Like like I still haven't been able to actually digest the power of like when I walked in and saw them taped there. I was like, what? I'm still like it's so, like the fact that it meant that much to him. And I stayed in touch with his grandma on social media, and I got to see pictures of him, and his pictures, like he, instead of his face being kind of like, before it was like kind of like hardened, like anger all the time, like ready to at it. Now it's just always a beaming smile on his face, like because now he's an adult, and and so I got to see him like, and I got to see him too. Like I got invited to like some of his birthday parties and stuff, and of course I came, and it's just like a completely different person, and it's just so incredible because it's not like I really did any extra work or anything. You know what I mean? It was no real skin off my back, so to speak, and just the change that just letting somebody know that you're in their corner,
Yeah.
and that was always a really powerful thing to me too, because my childhood was a little bit rough, and the one thing that I always wished for was having somebody in my corner. And so the fact that I'm able to be that for somebody else, to me is, the best reward and most meaningful thing that I could ever get. So like each one of these stories, which there's so many of them, like my inner child is just like doing somersaults.
Some people believe that before we're born, we kind of plan out our life, and we might even pick the circumstances we're born into, the families, the environment, the gender, ethnicity, part of the world, all of it. Um, and some believe that we specifically choose things that we know will be challenging for us because that will help motivate, inspire us, like help us learn that pain that other people are going through. And so that we can heal it, overcome it, learn how to help others through it, like you're doing. So I don't know if that was the case for you or not, but I know some people in spiritual circles will believe that.
Well, that's like super common in NDEs and LBLs. So that we scripted our lives from pretty much beginning to end, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And when I look back at my life, it seems like everything was for a reason. Like everything just happened how it needed to happen. And I'm actually grateful that my childhood was rough, because then it helped me to understand how other kids and people were feeling. And if I had like a super wonderful life, I don't know if I'd be able to relate quite as well. And also the most powerful thing, perhaps, is that after I was able to go through that experience and work on healing myself by giving myself and my the child version of myself love, um, I was able to step back from that situation with my dad and actually be able to help him with his pain. And so now him, instead of being really angry, now he's being way more loving and kind and caring. And so that's me, like to be able to give him that gift. And my mom like gushes all the time, like, like that he's so much more loving now, and he's like caring, and he's so
Um,
nice, and it's just incredible.
so so many thoughts right now. So, I mean, one, it sounds like you're going to have a good life review. So, I mean, good job. Because when you leave this planet behind, and move on to the other side, you'll get to see, like you were given the gift when you were invited over for Thanksgiving, and you saw that student hung up all those letters, in the room, which just shows in itself, like, we never know the impact we have on others. We never know what touches, inspires, encourages, uplifts them. And in this case, you got to see it with one person, and who knows how many others you're not aware of. And, in the case of your dad, just now you're saying, like, it made his marriage better. So your mom is happier and enjoying a better relationship, and her life is better because you helped him, because you did the inner work yourself and learned from the background you came up in, and said, how can I use this to help others? And that's, would you say, one of the superpowers people can have? Take the pain you went through and figure out, how can I use this to have empathy and connect with and help others also in a similar pain?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the greatest things that we could do. And also it's rewarding for us too. Like, um, when I go around saying hi to people, and they light up, it brightens up my day too. And so
Yeah.
we're really all helping each other. And I really love how one lady termed it in her NDE that we're all fingers on the same hand. And I just thought that was so.
Somebody else used I use that same metaphor. Yeah.
Like my favorite one that I used for a while before I heard that one was that we're all leaves on the tree. And how there's,
I've
and my friend
I've
is like,
used that analogy as well. Yeah.
my friend is like, yeah, like different branches can be like different nations, and then you have some leaves that are higher, getting more of the sun. You have some that are a little bit lower, but like they're all feeding and all working together. Like they're all feeding that same source, that same trunk. Like it's all.
Yeah, the tree is feeding all of them. Yeah. And I kind of, based on my mystical experience, I kind of saw how we're all interconnected and we're all extensions of God. There's a piece of God in all of us. And no matter where you are on the tree or what finger you might be on the hand, that lifeblood, that energy is flowing through and nurturing all of us. I want to ask you a couple questions, because I'm sure somebody watching this right now is wondering this. If they've been through pain, trauma, difficulty, challenging life, how do they learn from it, heal from it, and transform it so that now it's an empowering story for them to help others? What advice would you give to them?
So we're we're all different, so different things might work for different people, but I'd be happy to share what worked for me. Um,
Please.
so I studied I really like Carl Jung, and I came across the book King Warrior Magician Lover, which I think is a fantastic book. And there's a female version of the archetypes, and so basically it takes Carl Jung's 12 archetypes and puts them into those four, and which makes it a lot more manageable than
It's easier to wrap your brain around. Yeah.
have to deal with 12. And because I think we can all see how we have a king, a warrior, magician, and lover inside of us. But that in itself is very, very interesting. But what really stuck out to me was he has shadow work exercises. And so there's one exercise in particular where he talks about um, dialoguing with the different archetypes and saying, like, how are you feeling? And, just having exchanges. And so that gave me the idea, what if I go into my past memories and I give myself love when I needed love? And so, because I don't know if it's a gift or a curse, but I remember the majority of my life. And so I was able to go back into memories of where I was hurting and I needed love, and telling myself, hey, you were just a kid then, that like, this wasn't your fault. Like you did the best you could. And sometimes even gave that version of myself a hug. And every time I would do that, that memory would just it would dissolve, like it would turn from being a negative memory into a positive, loving memory, and then it would just dissolve. Um,
Mm,
and so there's that. And another thing that's really helped me out a lot is some reason it just came to me to start sending love out to people. And so I would send love out to people I cared about, and then also, of course, people that weren't my biggest fan. And that was where I really found the real power. Um, because then when I would thankfully it's not very many people, but like when somebody doesn't like me, it like it really hurt my feelings because I'm like, I've tried to be good to this person, help them out. Like, why don't they like me? Like, what am I doing? And
right.
but anyway, and so sending them love just changed the dynamic so much of when I encountered this person or people in real life, instead of being defensive and like angry or not, I don't know if angry is the word, but just on edge or in a fearful state, I was in a loving state because I practiced sending them all that love, and I wish them a great every day. And one person in particular, like I helped them when they were down, just try to give them some encouraging words, and it totally flipped that relationship, and we ended up talking, and this a little bit later on down the road, like having nice conversations with each other, and it also it helped me to realize that when people don't like me, it's not actually about me at all, and so don't take anything personally because it's not personal, and I was thinking too, like, maybe if I'm being bad to people, I could see maybe why they don't like me as much. But still, it's if somebody is healthy, they're gonna just ignore me instead of like getting triggered by it. But still, you know what I mean. But
Right.
even with that, I of course try to focus on being as loving as I can, and also sometimes we have to have boundaries. Boundaries are really important. Sometimes I have to let people know that such and such is not okay, or I'm not interested in continuing this conversation, or whatever. But they can be done in uh, a loving, respectful way, and
Right.
because it's important to love other people, but also of course love ourselves. And if we're letting everybody walk over us,
100%.
then that's not being very loving either, and it's not good for anybody.
Right.
So
Right. So
hopefully that
I'm
answers.
curious. I mean, very well said. Thank you. You gave gold right there. So thank you, Michael. Um, I'm curious, like, did you start like learning these lessons and applying love to yourself, your inner child, your past to other people? Um, did that happen after you started studying all about near death experiences, or were you already doing that beforehand?
So this was actually beforehand. And so that's why after I wrote my book, and it was talking about I was talking about the butterfly effect in it. I don't think I actually mentioned the butterfly effect in it. Like I just mentioned like how the effect works.
Right.
Then after I heard the life reviews, I was like, what? I was like, are you kidding me? Like my children's book is that because it's actually for kids and adults, and I realized like to reach adults that the best way is to reach adults through their kids. And so that was like I call it my choice
Oh,
of trying to
clever.
make an effect. And it's worked. It's worked. I had a little girl like got her mom to in England, got her mom to go out and pick up garbage around the neighborhood. So how
Wow.
cool is that? But yeah, so when I found out that I was actually on the right track with all of this stuff, um I was very excited.
Yeah. And it also, we don't all need a near death experience to have that awakening, to learn that love is really what matters and love actually makes a difference. Kindness is what gets the biggest leverage and biggest impact in life. We don't need the spiritual, supernatural experiences to learn these lessons. I've always believed truth is universal. It doesn't matter where you're starting or where you're looking. If you keep searching long enough, you'll find it. It's everywhere. It's constant. So you can find it through religion and religious texts, doctrines, things like that. You can do it outside of religion. You don't need religion. You can learn it through a spiritually transforming experience or near death experience, something like that, some kind of supernatural awakening of some kind, but you can also learn the same lessons without that, because you are a case in point, an example of we can learn the lesson of love many possible ways.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it all started out because I was agnostic for a large portion of my life. I was raised Roman Catholic, and as a young kid, I saw the issues with here's a religion and here's how people are actually are. For me too,
It's
it was how do we know that it's true. And
yeah.
I the only response I ever got was, oh well, so many other people believe in it, it must be true. I'm like, that doesn't work for me at all. And so I was for a very long time I was agnostic, just not knowing. That's I didn't know either way. And then I would just go around the city that I lived in at the time and just say hi to people. And I would just feel this energy flowing out of me. Like I would just be in this place of just warmth, and I don't know, like it just of course it was very subtle at first, and it was nothing, nothing that I would say that was like magical or anything. It was just something that I noticed. Like there's this energy in me that isn't me. Like there's some magic happening in these exchanges, but it wasn't like I wasn't seeing like fireworks going off, or anything that just like it just felt like something like really special that was happening between people, between us. And the more I would do it, the more I would get into that spot, and I was like, huh, there's really something to this. And so just after years of saying hi to people, it just blossomed into all these other areas too.
I feel something a lot of people struggle with today, probably more than ever in human history, is not feeling a sense of quality connection with others. Right? We've got email and text messages, cell phones, social media, video conferencing, all that kind of stuff, more ways to connect. But ironically, at least for myself and many people I know, we feel less connected. Like it's not as rich or meaningful or maybe safe, vulnerable, secure kind of connection. Like we have a surface level connection, a curated image that my curated image talks to your curated image on social media, and that's that. Um, and actually just taking a moment to look someone in the eyes in passing and just say hi, hope you're having a good day, a good every day, um, is creating that connection. When you offered to help that lady in the parking lot, that was just a moment of connection. Like, hey, can I serve you, help you in this small, easy way for me? But it meant a big thing for her. Or when you were describing that student you were working with, who got easily angered and triggered at a lot of stuff, you didn't just stick him in a corner and said, cool down by yourself and deal with it. You sat with him, you talked with him, you connected with him, you helped him process those emotions. And I think that's what we all really need. So if we were to kind of distill this into something super simple, like do you feel really what it is heartfelt connection, is actually caring about another, like you said, being in their corner, um, giving them encouraging messages, believing in them, that kind of stuff. That's connection, that's kindness. Do you feel that if we were to distill it down into its simplest, easy to take away form, like is that what you would say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's it just goes back to being so interesting how um in the life reviews, these little acts of kindness are seen as so much more important than doing the big grandiose, or like being the president and like making all these changes. And I'm thinking about that. Why is that the case? And I sent you the excerpt from Michael Newton's book too about
Hmm.
the sages, how instead of these really advanced souls that come back to help Earth, instead of being in a really prominent role, just want to help the people that are affected by the people in those large roles. And I think you hit the nail on the head. That seems to be the conclusion that I've been drawing on, is having those interpersonal connections. And for me, I realized too that it actually it doesn't just ripple far and wide, but it actually ripples through generations too. So it's rippling everywhere.
Mm.
Because I actually one day I saw a little kid, I think he was like either 2 or 3, like throwing a frisbee by himself, and it was kind of dark out, so like it was getting dusk, and I couldn't really see that well. And I asked his mom if it was okay if I played with him, um, because he was all by himself. And she turned around to me, and I knew her, and I had actually taught the little boy how to play frisbee. And I'm just like, wow, that
No
little
kidding.
is going to be teaching his kids how to play frisbee like when he's 3. And like it was just such a neat thing.
Wow. Yeah. This that's cool. So I'm wondering, I want to ask you, so you were already kind of practicing and applying this kindness and connection thing. And then you came across near death experiences and life between life lessons. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is meaningful. This is good stuff. Like I'm actually doing good work. And that's what matters most on the spiritual side of things. And you've been studying a lot of these stories ever since. You've been attending sharing groups where real life people are just sharing their story live in real time with each other. Has everything you've learned changed anything further? Did it just kind of like reinforce and strengthen what you're doing? Have you modified anything that you're doing? Have you changed, has it had an impact on you since
Oh,
learning about all that?
massively. One of the most beautiful things is just finding out that so much of our life is about love. And I came across the concept that we can either be in a state of fear or in a state of love, and not both at the same time. And I think that's really powerful and useful at a practical level, because times that I've been feeling, and so I've been playing with that concept lately, and times that I feel fearful, I send that fear or myself or both love, and also think about all the things that I'm grateful for, and it's so interesting how being in that state, and actually somebody said it too that I was talking to, that everything is made out of love. And I thought that was like really interesting, like just visualizing every single plant, every single creation is made out of love. And so I said to
I
myself, you
agree.
know what, I'm gonna go around, and I'm gonna spread love everywhere like gravy. And so I just like that
That's
visual
an
because
image. I love it. Just
yeah,
pour gravy love all over
yeah,
everything.
because I mean, gravy
But
is
it
is
sticks.
is is delicious. Yeah, that
Yeah.
that and the fact that well, I shouldn't use fact, but the concept, uh, um, that everything happens for a reason. What everybody's going through is for a reason, and the fact that things are pre-planned, um, it just takes so much weight off. And um, I think if people like really look into it, because it's like, why do bad things happen? Like it answers every question that I've ever had about why is life the way it is here. And it's
But we needed to touch on that though, because people get tripped up on that. So yeah, it all happens for a reason. Maybe we even planned it, but is that an excuse for us to allow evil things to continue in the world?
well, absolutely not. Um, and
So how would you answer that if someone say someone was homeless or something, and one person said, "Oh, that's their karma, or that's their pre-birth plan, or whatever. So I'm not going to do anything about it." But you in your heart want to give them some money or help them out in some way. Like how do you resolve that?
That's a really good and important question, that I've been putting a lot of thought into, because over and over again we find in young spiritual texts, etc., that the most important thing that we can actually do is work on ourselves. And and I didn't understand that at first, but then, as you mentioned, the rising tide raises all boats. Um, but if we, and so I think this actually touches on what we were talking about before. If I go out and donate $1 million to all the homeless people, is that actually helping them out versus, maybe having a little bit of a simple personal connection is actually more powerful. If I'm walking by a homeless person, instead of just ignoring them, or putting the blinders on, saying, telling them, I hope you have a great every day, or if I have some food, giving them a piece of what I have, or whatever. I think that simple kindness goes a really long way. And I've heard both actually in life reviews, and um, hopefully this is okay to mention. I've heard this both in life reviews and from people I know personally, that there's been times where somebody was ready to commit suicide, and somebody just said hi to them, and or gave them a smile, and they changed their mind. Like, that's how powerful this stuff is. And then,
A little
like,
connection and kindness goes a long way. Yeah.
and there is somebody that I know that had one time told me that they were suicidal, and now they have like 30 grandkids. And it's like, wow,
Wow.
it's like if that person had ended their life, all these people wouldn't exist. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like, it's just so crazy, like how just like this little bit of kindness can actually really impact so much of reality. Um,
Yeah, and I don't want to like oversimplify it because mental health is a complex thing, and people might get to that extreme point through many different paths, many different ways, right? But I know in some cases, um, it's a lack of love, it's a loneliness, it's a feeling of disconnection, it's a feeling of harshness, not experiencing enough kindness in life. And sometimes for some people, all it really takes is just one person to say, hey, you know what? I'll be kind to you. I will connect with you. Like, we say, oh, should you give money to a homeless person or not? Or how do you treat them? Be kind to them or whatever. We say the words homeless person. And I think sometimes our brain just focuses on the homeless part and not the person part. Because bottom line, we are all people wherever we're at in life, whether we're a super trillionaire or we have nothing, young or old, male, female, whatever, we're people. And that is the first and foremost thing. And that is what deserves love and kindness and connection.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to me, oftentimes, honestly, a homeless person is going to be more. Well, everybody's important to me, but I'm going to generally resonate better with a homeless person than I am a trillionaire, because usually a trillionaire is unfortunately focused on accumulating more money, and like stuff that just and kind of actually separate from reality, versus a homeless person, like, they're in the nitty gritty of reality. And one thing too,
They probably see the best and worst of humanity. Being in a
absolutely,
position like that, you probably see it all. Yeah.
and a lot of them are wonderful people. And I mean, and everybody, of course, is wonderful in their own way. And one thing that you maybe think of too is, even if if somebody has a mental health problem, and you say hi to them, of course, that's might not necessarily fix everything in an instant, but it might make them realize, like, wow, like, somebody actually saw me as important. Maybe I should go see if I can get help. Like, I'm actually worth working on
I
myself.
have
Like,
value. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Because that's the big thing. And I meant to mention it before. Like, even with my frisbee events, um, so many of the kids, they don't think that they can even catch a frisbee, or they're not going to be good, and so they don't want to try it. And I tell them, I'm in Gainesville, Florida, so I'm like, just give me a gator chomp like this. And so they give me the gator chomp, and I throw in the frisbee, and they catch it, and it's like, like, their mind just explodes. They're like, whoa. And they're like defeatist. Well, it's the same thing with, like, the fear versus love. Like, their fearful state goes into, like, whoa, like, I actually can do it. I love myself. Like, I'm actually capable of this. I'm actually awesome. And I just see, like, their beautiful little personalities come out, and they just have the time of their life. They don't want to go home. And then, their parents are so happy because the kids are happy. And my big hope is that, since they realize that they're wrong about not being good at frisbee, what other things did they think that they couldn't do, that they're like, say, hey, now I didn't think I could do frisbee,
Yeah.
but I was awesome at that. Maybe I'd actually be awesome at this too. And I've had actually many adults that have said things like that too, that they're not going to be good at it. And I'm like, just give me that gator chomp, and they chomp it. And I've even had people like in their 60s, 70s, and it's just so crazy to see their eyes like they turn into like little kids' eyes again. And it's just like 60, 70 years of conditioning just like destroyed.
Right. You're absolutely right, because that's all it takes is one experience of, oh, I can't do that, and then they do it, and they're like, wow, I can do it. What else can I do that I haven't thought I could? Like
Absolutely.
that's huge. That opens up an entire life.
Yeah. And so, I mean, if we can help a homeless person, or anybody that's down on their luck, or just anybody, period, realize that, hey, like, you are valuable. Like, I want to
Yeah.
see you do well. Like that shift is just opens the door to so much beauty, and then that again that ripples out to other people too. So, um,
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you came on and shared all this. I love and I agree with everything you're saying here. Um, if you were to leave us with a message, something to focus on, something to remember, a takeaway, a sound bite, whatever, what would that one thing be?
So I guess it's going to be, um, and of course, you can watch my TEDx talk yourself. It's all like about these stories of my students with my dad, and the power of how we can be a real life superhero. But I mean, the main question that I always have been asking myself, and which I think is the most important thing to think about, is there anything more important than being good to ourselves and being good to others? And because in my opinion, there isn't. It's just there's so much, like, that's the core at it. Like, especially, like, yeah, when we're good to ourselves and we're good to others, life just unfolds in such a beautiful way. Um,
And if people want to um, see your TED talk, get your book, learn more about you, where can they go?
So I think the best place is probably my website for my book, and which has my TEDx talk on the front, and it also has the trailer. It's the trailer for the book, but it also has like my background, and it's only like a little bit over a minute long. Um, and one of my former students made it for me, which I think is the greatest part. And he refused to let me pay him for it. He's like, "No, you've done too much for me." I'm like, "No,
Oh,
just like take money." And he's like, "No, I won't take anything." I'm like, because he did such a great job. And he actually did the trailer for my game too. And so anyway, it's Superhero Hill. That's HILL, superherohill.com. And yeah, and I have my contact information. I'd love to hear from anybody that wants to reach out. Especially, and even if you disagree with me, I think constructive criticism is more viable than gold. So I'd love to converse about any of this. And yeah, and so, and also, thank you so much, everybody, for listening to me. Hopefully it's helpful in some kind of way. And I'm sure we could talk about this for hours too. There's so
yeah.
much to it. It's so rich and so fun. I love it. I think it's so fun too.
Dude, I really appreciate you for coming on and sharing all this, sharing your heart, sharing your experiences. Um, yeah, I handpick who I want to be a guest on my channel, and I'm looking for people who are heart centered, who have some kind of experience, some kind of message to that's worth sharing. And we met in a sharing group, and I was just like, "Ooh, this guy gets it. He knows." I gotta see if he'd be interested in doing this video with me. So sincerely, Michael, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story, your experiences, your lessons learned, and and thank you, yeah, everybody for watching. Check out Michael's website.
I think
Thank
it
you.
is. I think it is so incredible too that you say that after seeing me in that sharing group, because I think it was around 11:30 my time, and so I was basically checked out mentally. And so the fact that like I was just exhausted, and so the fact that you uh gleaned that from just whatever I shared, I mean, that means the world to me. Like so I guess I feel like I must be on the right track or something. But that's a really special thing. Thank you for sharing that.
Maybe it's because you were so tired. Your authentic self came through with no filters,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
know. Yeah, the filter had gone to bed a long time ago.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me on. And as always, I hope you have a great every day, and everybody watching has a great every day, and everybody in general has a great every day.
Well said. Agreed.